September 1st. We are being audio recorded and you don't see any, you got video recorded also. Okay, roll call, please.
Bob Chakowski.
Here.
Dave Williams.
Excuse.
Elizabeth Stevens. Sue Starkey.
Accept the minutes of the previous meeting. November 3rd, 2016.
Make a motion to accept the minutes.
And a second.
Was it?
Second.
Oh, I second.
Got any corrections, changes, anything like that? Obviously, Marissa did a good job again. B, meeting of November 21st.
We got 2 sets of minutes.
We have to vote on the first one.
Oh, all in favor? Okay. I don't know. Is that a good vote? 2 people?
Majority of the board here and the majority of the people here voted yes. I'm going to say, I'm going to go with it.
Okay. Next then is November 21st, 2016.
Make a motion to accept the minutes.
Okay, I wasn't here, so was there any corrections or?
My name's spelled wrong, has a E in it. But otherwise,
All in favor of accepting the minutes as submitted?
I'm sure in time you'll learn.
I can't vote on that. Okay, that's majority of the people here. Agenda item number 4, citizens forum. Any citizen of Southbridge that wishes to bring something before the board that's not on the agenda tonight? Seeing none? Agenda item
Hold
number.
on one second. I actually do. I don't know if you guys have seen this. This is a letter from John Casella to Senator Goby regarding the
Can you
landfill.
identify yourself?
Yeah, Tom Pruitt, 150 Public South, Southbridge, Mass. Thanks for actually listening to me. I just want to give you guys this letter, give you a chance to review it, but I'd like to have a little bit of discussion on it if we could. We had talked before about being a partner with Casella in the landfill. That doesn't sound like that's a good fit.
This is about the landfill?
Yeah.
Okay, then that'll come under agenda item number 5 when we're discussing landfill.
Sorry, I should have printed more copies for everybody.
All right. Give us a chance to look this over.
so
She's copying it.
I know.
are we still on the citizens forum?
You know I can't hear you.
Oh, are we still on citizens forum or are we going to the next agenda item?
We're going to go to the next agenda item because it deals with the landfill, and that is Casella. But I want to take a few minutes. Marissa's making copies of this for us, and I want to take a few minutes for us to at least read it. Okay? I'm in mourning because Gronkowski's out for the year.
It's okay, it'll give us time.
I heard on the radio today, people were saying dump him. I'm like, really? This guy goes out there, gives 120%.
He
Kills himself
yeah.
every game.
When he's healthy, look at his
He's the
stats.
animal.
He's
You know?
amazing.
Don't matter, he's the
You know.
personality of the team.
Yeah.
He's the character of the team, so.
You know what we need, we need a new kicker.
You guys seem to do some impossible things.
We didn't do kicker. He's one of the best in the league.
Not this season.
Not this year.
When you start
Right.
missing them, that's when it's time to go.
It's like, what, 2 weeks ago when you had 12 extra points from this? My God.
This letter came to us through, I believe it was one of the emails, and I know Anna inundates you with emails, and I try to encourage her to, if it's an important one,
Yeah, I didn't see this one.
I try to encourage her tomorrow, please read this. But,
Yeah, I didn't see this one, and any other ones last few days.
Okay, we go to agenda item 5, Casella. Tracy, and after Tracy gives her report, then anyone else who wants to speak on a matter of Casella or the landfill can do so.
Good evening. So I'd like to start with my regular permit update, a quick update on construction, household has waste day update, and then any questions the board may have.
Okay.
So the most significant update to the permitting is that we received the administrative completeness on the site suitability application, which is the SWO1. We received that on November 16th. So that involves, for the next steps for that involved public notification to start the 21-day public comment period, and then the response to those comments in turn. So the 21-day comment period for the public to comment on the SWO1 application expires on December 20th at 5 p.m. I got that information directly from DEP.
November 20th?
December 20th.
December, okay, so it goes to December 20th.
12/20/16 at
Okay.
5 p.m. So DEP will accept public comments on the site suitability application up until that date and time.
Okay,
All right. Then the SW11 permit, which was the facilities permit for the infrastructure movement of the landfill gas collection system, the new maintenance garage, the leachate tanks, there's been no change since my last update a month ago.
I have a question about the SWO1. When it says public comment, that's exclusive of this board?
No, that's anyone who wishes to comment on the permit, which I don't know, Andy could probably give you an update on where you're at. Yeah.
Anna and I sat down and came up with a significant number of comments. We also sent it to Ty and Bond. Obviously, we're not engineers, so we sent it to Ty and Bond to get their thoughts on comments. The combined document, I believe I sent
Yeah,
it
so we
to,
just got that, I think it was either late
yesterday or the
yesterday
day before.
or.
yeah,
Correct, all right, I just sent that out, that's our list of comments from what
Right.
we've seen in the review. And I sent it out to the board and to Ron to find out if there was any interest in, or if there were any comments on your part that I would incorporate into that. we anticipate that we will be probably closing that up by the end of next week and sending it on. If there's any comments that you come out of it, it's volumes of paper as it was very burdensome review.
Okay, so there's your comments, you're expecting comments to be added to that?
Ty and
and all
Bond's
of it to
comments
go
are in
up?
there. If you read the thing, it says comments by Ty and Bond. Those comments are by Ty and Bond on behalf of the town. About halfway, or 3/4 of the way through that, it says additional comments by the town. Those were comments that Anna and I developed, talked about, vetoed.
Tracy?
You all set with that? Is that you, Billy? Okay, so really, no, just to back up for a quick second, there's been no change or update to the facilities permit, and then that leaves the SW26 permit, which is the DEP permit for the construction of phases 10 and 11, and there's no change to the timing on that as well, so that's still the same as was last month. We did submit the QA/QC document for cell 7.4 phase 2. That's the new cell we constructed this year. So that QA/QC document went in, and we're expecting to get the DEP authorization to operate that cell in late January. So that's the update there on the permitting.
And the SW26 is the permit to relocate all of the adjunct equipment to the scale house property.
That's the 11.
That's the 11. The SW26 is phase 11.
Phase 11 berms, yep.
Okay. Had it backwards. The SW26, I mean, that SW11 is going before planning board, I believe,
That's
next
correct.
week.
Yep.
They are seeking comments from Board of Health and any other department in the town. The only comment that I'm going to put forth, I've reviewed most of it, the only comment I'm going to put forth is that there is a road that is by contract required to be put in by Casella, straightening out a H-foot road. And I'm just going to put a comment in that, you know, should that be included in this, if they're still supposed to go along with that. Come on, I'd love to have you.
Hi, good evening.
All set? So that's the permitting update. Construction on the eastern slope, because we had two construction projects going on this summer. So that was the construction of cell 7.4 phase 2 and the eastern slope stabilization work. So that's coming to a close in the next week, a little bit less than a week. We'll have our final construction meeting next week, and they're essentially working on their final punch list right now. The bulk of the construction work has been completed. And then lastly, Household Has Waste Day is this Saturday up at the residential drop-off area from 9 to 1. All are welcome during that time frame.
And the other part for regular rubbish and stuff is also open?
Right, yes,
Right.
the residential drop-off will be open its regular time, which is 7 to noon, but then the Has Waste Day will continue on till 1 o'clock. So if people come to bring their recycling or trash until 1, we'll allow them on that day.
Somebody asked me about monitor or an old TV, and I said, yes, you can bring it up there, it's gonna cost you $20, but you could pay on the spot, so they didn't know that, so. But it is listed in the flyer that went out on what cost $20, and
It's basically anything with refrigerant in it, any of the CRTs, and then there's, those are $20 a piece, and then it's a $5 or $10 fee for like a propane tank or car or truck tires. But
Yeah.
essentially, that's it.
I always have a good attendance at that thing too.
We do. It'll be a very busy day. The weather's supposed to be nice, so.
Oh, good. Anything else?
That's the end of my update. I'm figuring the board has some questions.
All right, you want to discuss this letter?
Yeah, I actually just
Could
wanted
you
to
come up
point
here,
out,
please?
sure, just wanted to point out one section. fourth paragraph down where he says, in any event, should it ultimately be determined that the landfill is a source of contaminants, it is clear that the unlined portion historically operated or on behalf of the town of Southbridge would likely be the source. So basically, I mean, I've heard you guys talk about them being a business partner before, and that concerns me because when this thing does leak, this is gonna cost us hundreds of thousands of dollars. And honestly, I mean, respectfully, I understand that, you know, we're getting money for dumping fees and things like that in the expansion, but I want to put it out there that I don't think that's a wise decision. I think that this is gonna really hurt the town in the long run.
Yes, Susan.
I don't think there's anything that we need to act on. The only thing it's saying is that they're doing a study to look for contamination. When the results come out, they might be able to determine what's the source and what needs to be done. I do think that the town has insurance, and the fund that will cover some of these costs, I can't remember the name of it, the larger fund that covers the extended cost. And that would have to go into effect if they did fund something like that. But there's nothing that we can do at this time.
Right, and, you know, I mean, there, in that letter, I think he's talking about the water lines in Charlton, and I mean, I'm not gonna be the most popular guy on my street for saying this, but up at Clements Hill, we have a lot of people that are on wells up there, and a lot of people on Pleasant Street. And I think that maybe it's time we're a little more proactive and start to notify people about what's going on. I think a lot of these people do know, actually I've talked to a lot of these neighbors, but I feel like we're just being left out of this process, and nobody's telling us if there's any plans to bring lines up there, and I guess just being a Southbridge resident, I guess I'm feeling a little left out.
So should there be an agenda item in the future? Because I've never seen anything about the site map, the plume, the water test results for any of the wells.
Possibly give Jeff Hobson if we want a update on the IRA.
Andy has.
There was an
Substantial
IRA.
amount of information.
Yeah.
Wait, I don't understand what just happened, because four people just started a sentence and nobody finished.
There's, what happened was through permitting, there's a requirement to test wells within, how far from the South 7? Half mile from South 7. Through that testing, we discovered some contamination of 1,4-dioxide and several other VOCs, 2 or 3 other VOCs in some of the wells. That drove DEP to say, well, we want you to test so much further from each of those wells. I believe at this point they have determined pretty much the extent of the contamination. There has been a IRA developed, and I'm not going to use the word approve because DEP doesn't approve anything, but they have accepted
Immediate response action plan.
Immediate response action. DEP has accepted that immediate response action, and through that, Casella has, actually, Ty and Bond, working on behalf of the town as the LSP for the site, but through Casella's funding, has launched a huge investigation, and I kind of get a grip on the investigation, but if we want to go further into this, I really think Jeff Arps, he is the LSP for the site, and I can bring him into our next landfill meeting and ask him to just bring the board up to date from, tonight's try to get the Reader's Digest version so we can, I understand. But I can definitely get him in for a meeting.
And I think we should have an AFE,
If we what?
acronym for environment.
God love you.
Because I don't know what the LSP is, so I
Licensed
Like,
Right.
professional.
Licensed site professional. Massachusetts requires, anytime that there is a release, a reportable release, the site has to be assigned a licensed site professional in Massachusetts, and he is responsible for designing the investigation and, if necessary, the abatement of the condition.
Kevin, in reference to Ms. Stacky's comments, the original FAMs that were established in 1996 with wood recycling, didn't had gone away, and is there any financial mechanism after that fact that covers any outstanding? The original FAMs were based on
And FAMs are,
Financial assurance mechanism.
Right. The original FAMs were based on, I believe, closure and post-closure
Yes.
criteria. And I believe there was also some aspects of the FAM to cover any accidental leakage or environmental.
So is that your question to me?
Yeah, well, my question is, the original FAMs were eliminated in 2007. Is there any insurance from 2007 on to cover those same expenses, possible?
I believe what you're referring to, that the FAMs were never eliminated. That is a regulatory requirement. I think what you're referring to is when Casella relieved the town of some FAM money that they had put aside, and then we took responsibility for bonding the FAM moving forward. So your interpretation of them being removed, or whatever term you use, that's not correct. So the financial assurance mechanism is a regulatory mechanism where DEP can assure that there is always money secured, that if there was an issue and the landfill closed in a very short period of time, that the state would have the funds necessary to close that facility. Your FAM is based on how much permitted waste you have in place, so your permitted capacity. So every time the Southbridge landfill goes through a permit process, we build a new cell, essentially creating more place for waste to be put in. The financial assurance mechanism has to be updated. There's a specific formula that DEP used based on that criteria. They come up with a number, and then we secure that through bonding. So the FAM is updated in place as should be.
Board of Health, through our landfill actually looks at that every time it's renewed to make sure we're comfortable with it. So far, we've been comfortable with it. If we're not, I don't know if there's anything we can do about it because it's set by DEP. There are several other bonds that are in place that we review and update regularly. One of them is the curbside collection bond to make sure that if the company goes out of business, we have enough money to get us through the next year and figure out what we're gonna do, stuff like that. But we do review all the bonds and FAMs and inclusion requirements and all of that every time it's updated.
so, I do remember FAMs, although I thought I remembered a different word beginning with O about the account for long-term savings to address the closing, not the closing costs, but the continued costs.
I mean,
Maybe they just.
Something that the town has in place?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm not aware of that.
And it might have just changed its name over 10 years, because I was on the board when it was still wood recycling, and there was some of this
Do you
in
have some
place.
memory about those mechanisms?
So the FAM is a question that we just want questions. If we have another meeting, some of the agenda items on that would be to look at, to talk about the FAM, to talk about.
The FAM is set by DEP, it's not, we don't even have a say in the FAM. I know it exists, we look at it every year.
But we still would like to be able to look at that so we can let other people in the town that are concerned about this at least have some sense that somebody is providing assurance that they're safe. And then another issue that we should look at is what kind of insurance policies did we have in place at the time? Because they would still be in effect if a condition were discovered at this time. Just putting our ducks in order. Is that, I don't know, there's a name we can do, oh, I can't think of it, but we'll call it the family insurance. The maps that showed what was found for well contamination.
Right.
Just to increase transparency for the people that live there. The expanded test that they did, the results that they found, and some assurance that the recommendations that DEP made about that immediate response were actually sufficient to protect the public. Because it sounds scary, but if they've actually done all the right things so that they are protected, it's worthwhile. And then another thing that should probably be on the agenda is what the property owner's responsibilities are for well testing for their own waters and corrective actions that they're responsible for. Because it might be just a good policy as a Department of Public Health to remind people that their well water should be tested on a regular basis, not just for contaminants from the landfill, but for other contaminants, and in particular in a drought season when there are higher risks of other E. coli or things
Oh,
like
we
that.
just did, Andy. Didn't you just recently did the well testing up on Clements Hill?
At the request of the citizens, this board voted to partially fund complete well tests. They took the attitude that you own a well and to assume that you're gonna dig a hole in the ground and stick a cup in there and come up with H's, 2's, and O's is kind of concerning. So the board said, we will pay for the testing and the analysis for VOCs if the people will assume the cost of the testing for the organics and the normal, what you would expect of a new well type of test. And I believe the intent was to get people to understand, you really should be looking at your well water periodically. Just because you have a well, it's not free.
Well, I think it's more than that, Andy. Everybody knows that. We should all do that.
But we did conduct the testing, and we found trace amounts of 1,4-dioxane, I believe it was in 2 of the wells, and then we found 1 VOC in one different well. It was a toluene, I believe. So we did find it. It was trace amounts, nothing that tripped the scales. And the Board of Health very clearly said that if it did not if it did not trip the drinking water standard, then the town would not take any action. With the logic that if we found those levels of contaminants in our public water, it would be
The result would
perfectly
be the same.
acceptable water.
We would do nothing.
Correct.
Okay.
So we did run through, only 13 or 15 people took advantage of the testing. And we offered it to anybody on Clements Hill or Pleasant Street down to the last house on the water line. There's a water line that goes up both hills a certain distance. We offered it to any person down to the last house on the water line.
And in Massachusetts, what does the law say about the requirements for providing water to residents? I know in Connecticut, the residents are on their own. The state does not require the town.
Massachusetts has a law under the housing code that the owner of a piece of property is responsible for supplying that piece of property with potable water.
So
There
that's
is, however, no laws about water quality coming out of a well. There are no private well laws in Massachusetts. There's policies and recommendations. Towns can adopt private well regulations, but the state does not have any.
My question was only who's responsible for providing the water. It's my understanding that the property owner is responsible for providing their own water. So even if they came to us and said the water is contaminated, we would say, yes, get a different source of water. We wouldn't say go buy new water or new bottles or anything like that. I just want to make sure that.
The board had alluded to if we found widespread contaminant, not point contaminants, but if we found widespread contaminants in that water testing, then we would petition the water district. We don't have any power to order the water district, because as you say, the owner is responsible, but we would petition the water district to possibly extend lines. And if they chose to do that, it would probably be at betterment to the property owners.
Right, but at least the beginning of the law is sort of about who's responsible for what, and if something falls through the cracks, it's still the property owner. But the board can work with them. And
Well,
those
I
were
think-
my list of questions that we
Thank you.
could bring up at the next meeting. Did you have other things that you think would provide some sense of comfort to the people who live there that they still don't understand?
Well, I think we just feel left out in that, we had to come and petition the board to help us with VOC testing. Given
that there's been contaminants found not far from there, the other way, and then all the studies that have been done, it got very confusing and about which way the water was flowing, how high it was. We're in a drought. I understand, you know, the chances of getting a hit in a drought is higher because you have less water to mix with, whatever. I understand that, but the town knows that they have wells close to this facility. So as a Board of Health, what I'm asking you is to be more proactive and let the people know up there that have wells that will help you. We'll test the VOCs, but you have to test, you know, maybe annually, I don't know.
But he
But
just
I'm
said that
just-
that's what
This
happened.
was
No,
already
we
just
requested
done
it and it was a
recently.
one-time deal. They never came
Okay,
back and
but-
said, so I'm just, like, these are the kinds of things that I'm just trying to ask, honestly, and thank you. I mean,
Right. No, and
I appreciate all
So
your
then
input.
my only question about that for you is that we just kind of touched base about the responsibilities of the property owner at the same time.
Right.
So obviously not everybody took advantage of, you know, the subsidized,
Right.
you know,
I mean, I paid as much
testing
as you
that the
guys
town
paid.
did, that we did pay for. So, you know, I mean, at some point, the property owner has to assume some kind of responsibility on their own as well.
I'm not saying that we shouldn't, but I think that if we know we have a time bomb over there, and, yeah, I mean, you could say we don't, but we do, and
No,
I think it just needs, it's something that warrants us to be proactive, that's all I'm saying. I'm just here asking the questions, that's all.
No,
I think with a lot of what goes on, it gets complicated. We talk about it in bits
very
and
complicated.
pieces. So for us to stay fully up to date is complicated. For us to share the information with property owners who are kind of like whack-a-mole, one comes up one week and one comes up the next week. We probably need to have what we determine at a meeting written down in a document that's written in layman's terms about what the situation is, what our responsibility is, and what the property owner's responsibility is, just so that we don't have to keep doing it every time somebody comes in, but make a statement once and then 6 months or a year from now something changes. Put that into layman's terms of what's going on. Because it sounds like you've done all the work, that you're getting the benefit of it. There's just a lot going on and everybody loses track of it because it's so complex.
can you get Jeffrey Earps to come out? Because I think that, I mean, that sounds like that would be really,
What I can do is, our next landfill meeting will be in January, 2 meetings from now. I already have asked Mike Scott to come up because there's been a lot of progress on the site suitability and
Right.
and where we can
because I
project where we're
think,
gonna
because I
be.
think if we can
and
have
Sue.
them come, I think that would be very beneficial for people, because I think that they can better explain, and you can ask them questions as well. They can better answer some of those topics for you.
So I don't know if you were on the board when we voted, you weren't on the board when we voted Mike Scott. Mike Scott's our lawyer.
Nothing to do with that, perhaps.
Mike Scott's our attorney for the site assignment. So I will ask him to come out and talk a little bit on some concerns of his, and also on the progress of the site suitability and the site assignment, where we are, where we've been, and where we can, or where he projects we'll be going. And I'll open him up to questions. Also, I will ask Jeff Arps to come in, and
Because that presentation that he did was really, really informative.
what I will do is ask him soup to nuts from day one till now.
Right.
What drove it, what created the IRA, I mean, I'll ask him to get Reader's Digest quality detailed.
For us
Meaning,
dummies.
yeah, so that even I can understand it, all right?
And you can help
For us
invite your
dummies.
neighbors
Okay.
because
Absolutely.
you'll.
Right.
So, and we will make sure
Because
that
I
we,
think that would be very, very helpful.
Okay.
okay, so I will have them to, at the next meeting, and it will be basically, I mean, prepare for a long meeting, the IRA and the response action that's taken place could be a long and involved conversation. So,
Because the questions are about the online landfill, I recently had an information request with the Board of Health, and it got a little too complicated. But my question would be, is there any evidence within the sample wells within the property of any exceedance of contaminants that may or may not have came from the online section?
When you say in the property, in what property?
The sampling wells operated within the property by...
Within the landfill property?
Yeah, the sampling wells, the surface sampling wells, not the residential wells. I'm talking about the monitoring wells on the property. Has there ever been an exceedance which drew attention to either yourself, the Board of Health, or DEP?
You're talking about data going back, before to 2000. So I can't just off the top of my head,
Okay.
Pick out a data point from so many wells. But I think that's something that Jeff Arps can probably talk about in his
might be able
presentation
to
as
talk about
well.
that. I will say that any findings of those monitoring wells are all part of a permitting process. So every one of those sample results went back to DEP, and I guarantee you DEP is working on it.
Because that's the other most important thing to remember. We have one piece to look at, and DEP has another piece, and we can't tell DEP what to do. That's their lane. So we're at least involved, we're monitoring things, but if